I show you today how to do the lower control arm removal, reinstallation, also the stabilizer bar, links, and the tie rods on a Saturn Ion 2007 version 2. The reason why I'm doing this video is because I like to do things by myself. I'm not a mechanic. I do this as a hobby, but I have learned a lot by checking videos online, and also we got the service manual. Actually, this is recommended if you're trying to service your car to get the one for your model, the make of your car, because this contains all the torque specifications that you need to use on different nuts and bolts, and it gives you like an idea how to do the things. Well, it will give you explanations with pictures and detailed information how to do it. So as you can see over here, I already got my car raised, making sure that it's raised properly, and also making sure that the jack stands are a little far behind the control arm, because that's going to be the part that I'm going to be removing. So also I'm going to be removing the spindle nuts, these ones right here. So you will probably notice that I'm using an impact wrench. This is just going to be needed just to remove the bolts, just to make the process easier. However, when I'm putting everything back, I'm going to use my torque meter, which I have. It's on the other side. Let me get it. Oh no, here it is. So it's really necessary for you to use a torque meter because everything has a torque, and many people, they just ignore that, and it's really bad because if you're not following the torque specifications, in a few months, or depending on how often you use your car, you're going to have some parts that are going to be warped, and we don't want that. So I always make sure that I'm using the right torque on my parts, and that's the reason why I have that book over there. So I'm going to start removing this spindle nut. This is not the first thing that you need to do, but I mean, you can just do it. So this is going to be a 30mm socket wrench. Once you take this one off, you need to replace it, because you'll probably see over here it's round, completely round, but let me show you a new one. The new one, as you can see, it's almost round, and it has like two flat shapes on top and bottom. That actually gives it some pressure, so it will not come off loose pretty easy. You don't want that to happen because you may have an accident. So once you remove that, we're going to remove the caliper, brake calipers. We just need a 15mm, if I'm not wrong. That one. Yeah, it's a 15mm. So I'm gonna use this torque. I'm not actually giving any torque. I'm just gonna use it just to remove the parts, the bolts. And let me show you which bolts you need to remove, because there are some other bolts in this bracket that actually are just for the wheel bearing hub assembly, and we don't want those taken off. We need this one right here, and there's another guy behind that we can barely see. It is this one right here. So we're gonna remove those first. We got the second remove, and sometimes it's necessary to tap this with a hammer, but this one came off loose right off. We need to be careful with this one. You don't want this to be hanging, because as you can see, it has the brake hose in here. If you just leave it hanging, you may damage the brake hose and eventually will leak. So, and you don't want. What we can do temporarily is just to place this over here, like you can just place it here, just being careful that this doesn't fall to the ground. And we just got this rotor that we need to remove. As you can see, this has two washers over here. We can just use a flat screwdriver. Let me get it real quick. And it has some little teeth. Can you get closer so you can show them? It has these little teeth over here. You may just want to tap it over here so you can make it spin. Once you spin it, you can probably grab it with your hand. You can make it spin. There are two in there in total, so you need to get this one first, and you need to get the other one right behind it. You don't necessarily have to remove the rotors, but I recommend it because it's easier for you to handle everything from behind. It's gonna make more space for you. So we keep the washers aside, we pull the rotor off, we get the bearing hub, which is, we already tested this one, it's okay, there's no reason for me to replace it. If you want to replace it, you can just remove the other bolts that are behind this bracket and it comes right off, or sometimes you have to tap it with a hammer. Anyway, I'm gonna remove, this is gonna be my outer tie rod end, and this is gonna be the inner tie rod. I'm gonna be replacing both of them, and this is gonna be the stabilizer bar link. So I'm gonna use my impact gun. Comes right off, as you can see. Okay, so I'm not taking this one yet off. I want to do it later. What you want to do now is, as you can see over here, there's a cutter pin, and there's like, well, this is going to be the outer tie rod end. I need to remove the cutter pin, and then there's a nut that I need to remove in order for me to pop this up and remove it. So we want to do that. We have to use some channel locks or some pliers to straighten the cutter pin. This could be kind of tricky sometimes. Yeah, the cutter pin off, it just took me like a minute or two extra. As you can see, it was really warped, so that's the reason why it wasn't sliding off. So now what I need to do is to get a 19mm socket wrench and take this part off. This nut right here. These are aftermarket parts, the ones that I'm replacing now. I mean, these are not the factory ones that it came with. So some of the measures may be different, but in my case, this is going to be a 19mm socket wrench for me to remove this nut, as you can see over here. This nut has these teeth, and the reason of this teeth is because the cutter pin actually slides in between them and doesn't allow it to spin, because we don't want this to become loose. If it comes loose and it falls off, you won't have control over this wheel. I mean, once you get it off, we need to tap this up. As you can see, it has a lot of dirt and grime in there, so it's probably going to be hard for me to take it off. I need to hit it with a hammer or the small sledgehammer if I have one. If you want to keep this part and you're planning to reuse it later on, I recommend tapping it with a piece of wood so you don't cause any damage to it. But since I'm going to be replacing it with a brand new one, I'll just tap it with a hammer until it comes off. Okay, so I was tapping it for less than a minute and it came right off, as you can see over here. So this is going to be really important for you to keep track on. As you can see, there is a nut in here that is making some pressure against this outer tie rod. All we need to do is to slide it in here where we took it from. We need an adjustable wrench, or let me try this one right here. Now this is not it. We just need an adjustable wrench if you want, or you can, as I said, that this is an aftermarket, so the measures can be different from yours. So all that I need to do here is to loosen this one up. Okay, just loosen it up. As you can see, it's loose now. So once it's loose, we want to leave it in the same spot that it was before. We don't need to tighten it again. We just leave it loose. And we take this off again. Be careful with the caliper. And now this is gonna be important. Since I'm gonna take this car for alignment after I'll do all this. I'm not gonna do it myself because the alignment places, they have machinery that is very precise. They use laser technology and other stuff that I'm not very familiar with, but they can do it precisely with computers. If I do the alignment by myself, it's not going to be perfect, so you don't want to do that. You want to take it to a shop where they have the right equipment to do that. So anyway, I'm going to leave it as close as possible as aligned. My car doesn't have any kind of alignment issues right now. So what I need to do is to count how many times I need to spin it in order to take it off, because when I put a new one in, I need to count the number of times to actually put it back on. So let's start. It's going to be 1 spin, 2, 3, 14, 15. So it took 15 times to actually spin it and take it off. we need to keep that number in mind, because when we put the new one back in, we need to spin it 15 times. If you spin it more than that or less than that, the wheel is not going to be straightened up. It's going to be tilt to a different angle, or I mean, it's going to be turned a little bit in the way they shouldn't be. So you may have issues with the tires, wearing them out pretty quick. So as you can see over here, this is the rubber boot that protects the inner tie rod and the steering wheel, the rack pinion. So we want pair of pliers, channel locks. We just need to remove this little guy right here, this clamp. This is just a pressure clamp. And then, since I already done this job before, if you can get closer towards that side, you see that little bolt, that little screw in here. That's just a clamp that uses a screwdriver. So I just need my flat screwdriver. The factory ones, if this is going to be the first time you're doing this in your car, the factory ones are non-reusable. So once you remove the clamps, you need to get new ones. And once it's loose, you need to pull this bolt right off. Careful of not tearing this one up. Okay, so this is the clamp that I was talking about. This is not the factory one. I just bought them from a shop, or I mean from Howard Supply. Okay, so we're gonna remove this inner tie rod. As you can see, it's pretty easy to move it around. It's not completely bad, but it's about to go bad, maybe, I don't know, but eventually it's gonna go bad, so I'm gonna replace it as well. So in order for me to replace this one, the right way to do it, I got two tools over here. So I got that tie rod removal kit. Basically what it is this thing that looks like a flashlight. You can just rent them from Addison or O'Reilly's. The part number on this one is 27024 OEM, and this is gonna be the end of it. And the number on this one, it's OEM 27290. So what you want to do on this one, see if you can get closer over here. This has an end that fits in there. Since this is, as I said, this is an aftermarket, this is not the original part. You can see over here is not like sliding in. So I gently tap it with a hammer, so it goes a little bit in, the same. Okay, I guess that this is gonna go, so I'm gonna carefully tap it here just to make sure it got it right. Okay, now we're gonna remove this with our torque meter. As I said, I'm not using torque meter right now just to measure the torque. I'm just using it to remove the parts. To get it all right off. Okay, so you can see over there, that's a pinion rack right there, the very end. I need to tap this one off, because tap it in. There it goes. That's my inner tie rod. As you can see, it's pretty easy for me to just grab it over here with one hand and just like move it with the other hand. It's pretty easy. When you get it brand new, you shouldn't be able to do this. So once I get it off, I'm gonna be removing my control arm, which is this right here. These are two 15mm bolts, and there's another bolt that goes underneath the car. It's attached to a subframe. It's a guy right here, let's say 21 millimeter. The manufacturer recommends after you take this one off to replace it with a new one. I'm not gonna do this today because I need to do some other repairs on my car, but I'm planning to do pretty soon. But it's recommended to replace that one. And also manufacturer recommends if you're taking, for some reason you're taking the spindle nut, you have to replace that one as well. And another one that is recommended to replace is that pinch bolt that holds the steering, the ball joint to this bracket right here. You can probably not see that right now. It's this guy right here. I'll take it off in a second. Got it removed. And this one has these little covers over here. They cover the bushings, the bushing ends that go that attach the control arm to the subframe. So we're gonna keep them handy. Now I'm gonna remove the bolt that attaches the control arm to the subframe, and as I said, that's a 21 millimeter. So I'm gonna grab my 21 millimeter socket that I have it. One thing that you need to keep in mind is that you want to do one side at a time. I mean, you don't want to remove both of these bolts at the same time. You do one first, you put it back on, then you do the second one and put it back on. Okay, so we finally got it off. As you can see, it's a long one. So you might probably wonder if you're like trying to pull it out and ratcheting it. It's not coming off. It's coming off. But if for some reason you feel like it's not moving, you may use an impact wrench to take it off. So these are the bolts that attach the lower control arm to the subframe. It's recommended by the manufacturer to replace them. I can give you the part number on the comments, or the description of the video. They are like $10 or $12 a piece if you get them from eBay, like the factory ones from GM. So we got the lower control arm removed, or not removed yet, but like loose from the subframe. We will need to remove it from this bracket. So for that we need 2 socket wrenches and 2 ratchets, because there is a bolt we need to hold the head of the bolt, and also we need to remove the nut. Both of them are 15 millimeters if I'm not wrong. Let me check it. I'm gonna hold it with the other ratchet on the other end. Okay, got it. So this is gonna be the nut, and this is gonna be the pinch bolt. As you can see, this is a smooth surface that doesn't have any thread on it. That's the one making direct contact with the bolt joint end. So once this is removed, this is recommended for you to replace them with a brand new one. You may want to tap the control arm with a hammer. You see, it came off. So the bolt slides in this neck right here, and that allows the bolt joint to not to be loose and fall off. So once I got that one, I will need to remove this control arm, and the sway bar is actually affecting me. So what I will do right now is just remove this bolt over here. The nut. So this is a stabilizer bar link. This is not giving me any trouble, but I'm gonna replace it anyway because my new kit comes with it. And we'll still get an issue here with the sway bar. This sway bar, as you can see, is not letting me to pull this control arm out. So what I will need to do is to go on the other side, remove or at least loosen this one up, the sway bar control at the link, and loosen it up so I can raise this one, and it will allow me to take it off. Okay, so we're on the other side. I was doing already, this job I already did it on this side, but anyway, I'm gonna take this nut off so I can raise temporarily my sway bar, and I can remove the auto control arm. So I'm gonna use my ratchet, loosen it up. Okay, I'm loosening it, but as you can see, the whole thing is spinning. So I'm gonna use a 19mm to actually, behind it there is a nut that I can actually grab it, and it's gonna help me to avoid the shaft to spin, so I can remove this nut. Just need to take it off, and that's it. So let's go to the other side. As you can see now, the sway bar, we can move it freely. It was like this. I'm able to just push it up, and now my control arm is gonna come out. So what I need to do is just to, since I already removed that bolt that attaches it to the subframe, just need to wiggle it a little bit and pull it out. This can be kind of tricky sometimes, so you may require to use a hammer to tap it. See? So when you're having issues with the car where you hear like tapping noises and you don't see anything like loose or anything like visible, anything visible that you can perceive that is rattling, then you may check on these ones. These are the bushings, and as you can see, they are worn out. So whenever you're driving and the surface is not flat, you may have this wiggling that makes a noise. This is another bushing, but this bushing seems to be that it's okay. And right here, this is the ball joint. Ball joint, as you can see, you hear it, not the tapping. That's making noise in the car. Eventually, this could be a safety hazard, because if it's coming too loose, it will pop out. Basically, what is inside is just like a ball joint that is attached to this socket or whatever this metal part is, and it can come right off, and you can have an accident with those if that happens. So that's bad. This is my new control arm. As you can see, this is the ball joint. I cannot move it. You see? Cannot move it at all, so that's the way it should be. And this is the other bushing. These are the two bushings. This is the one, well, both of them are going through the subframe, but we could see on the other one, the part that I just got rid of, this one was broken, so you cannot, this one doesn't wiggle at all. Well, just a little bit, but that's normal. So we want to place this new one in. Since this is loose, I can just turn it away. Make sure you're not putting too much pressure on these parts right here. This is a Driveaxle. If you apply too much pressure, you can break it. So once you wiggle it, it goes in. We have to, these holes need to match the bushings ends in there. And there's something really important. The way that I do it, because I found out it's easier, is to slide this one in first, this pin of the ball joint into the bracket first, and then I will put the bolt on that one. Because if I do it the other way, what I found, I mean, you can do it, but it's going to be a little bit more difficult. So this is bent towards my side. I mean, this is supposed to move. So what I'm going to do, carefully tap it with a hammer so I can bend it towards the engine. Put it in position and then slide it in there. It's a little bent towards my left, so I'm gonna push it towards the center and towards the engine. And I need to make sure that this slides into the bracket. Okay, it's almost there. I mean, it went in, but what I'm gonna be doing carefully, this is something that you have to be very careful about. I've done it so many times, I have never had any issues. Jack it up a little bit. You don't want to apply too much pressure on it. Okay. Once it's in there, let me see. Let me show something real quick over here. There's the hole right there. You can see clearly through it, so it means that the bushing is in position. Remember that little neck that I was showing you before? This neck right here. So we're not seeing any of this part, we're looking through the neck, so it means it's in the right position. Where is it at? Right there. Oh, you can see the neck now, so need to push it up a little bit with the jack. There it is. So now it's in there, and I'm gonna be placing the nut now. Okay, since now I already put the pinch bolt and the nut, I'm gonna tighten them. I'm not gonna do the torque right now, I'm gonna do it later. I just need to lay everything in the place it should be first, and then I'm gonna tighten it. And I'm gonna be placing the nut now. Okay, since now I already put the pinch bolt and the nut, I'm gonna tighten them. I'm not gonna do the torque right now, I'm gonna do it later. I just need to lay everything in the place it should be first, and then I'm gonna tighten it. So as I was telling you before, to remove it I needed 2 ratchets and 2 15mm socket wrenches. So I want to do the same today. Right now, as the installation is really tight, I just put it in there, and I'm gonna show you the reasons why I'm not doing well. I'm gonna give you a detailed explanation of what the manufacturer says about that bolt when tightening it. So let's go ahead and do the reverse of the installation I was telling you before. After we place the lower control arm in position, I'm going to before I put the bolts on it, I'm gonna take care of the inner tie rod. And this is the old one right here, we don't need it anymore since I got the new one. And now open it up. Got this package from Driveaxle on eBay. Cost me like $110 for both the inner and outer tie rod ends, the lower control arms, and stabilizer bar links. So it's a pretty good deal. As you can see, that already comes with a little bit of grease on this ball joint, but I need to put some more. So you can get this grease from any place. I got mine from AutoZone. It's just a multi-purpose grease. Let me just get that. So we got this. Make sure that it's clean, that we don't have any debris on it, because this is gonna be this is a ball joint that is gonna be moving to different sides, and we don't want any debris on it. I'm gonna take the nut out of it, and I'm gonna put just a little bit of grease around it. We're not need to put a lot of it. It's just to make sure that you don't see any metal of the ball joint in there. Just make sure that it's covered like this. That's gonna be enough. So for this, we're gonna tighten this with our tool that we got from O'Reilly or AutoZone, or you can buy it online. I guess it's not really expensive. So as you can see, it has like a square shape, and this is how it goes. It goes in here, and you tighten this one to the pinion, the rack pinion. So what we're gonna do right now, see if you can get closer here, is to manually tighten this. Okay, we got it there. You can see it's really hard for me to move it. That's because it's brand new. That's the way it should be. So now I'm gonna be applying the tools that I got. I'm gonna be applying this one first. And as I said, this is not a factory one. This is an aftermarket part. So you can see this rod, it's a little bit thicker than it should be. So I need to tap this gently with a hammer so it can go down. and I'm gonna place this inside here. So now what my book says about it is that the torque specification for the inner tie rod to the pinion, right pinion, is gonna be 25 pounds per feet. So I adjust my torque meter to 25 pounds per feet. Okay, we got it on 25, there we go. Always recommend going by the torque. Yeah. Okay, I finally got an angle here. I just need to twist it a little bit. So let me give 25. There it goes. You hear it clicking? The clicking tells me that I already got 25 pounds per feet. So I just need to remove this, wiggle it a little bit, and since there we go, we just took it off. Okay, so the next part is to place this rubber boot. It didn't come on my kit, but this one is just fine. We need to make sure that there are no cracks on it. If you have any cracks on one of these, it's recommended to replace it, because what cracks, they will allow water, grime, and dirt to go into the rack pinion, and what that's gonna cause, you're gonna have more issues. This car doesn't use hydraulic steering, power steering is electric. It has some sensors on it, and they're gonna be, you can run them if you let water or any other dust particles to get inside of there. So since this is okay, this is fine, I'm just gonna place it in, slide it in there. Okay, we got it in the position it should be. So now I just need to tighten the screw that goes in there. Got it there. Now we need to put the other clamp that goes by pressure. You remember the outer tie rod? This is the old one. You can see over here is not. I mean, this wasn't giving me any trouble whatsoever, but I'll use a new one. Okay, so this is a new one. As you can see, it has the hole in there, and it has the teeth, so you can slide the cotter pin when you are done with the installation of it. So I need to take this one off, and there's something I will need to keep an eye on. Depending on the kit that you got, some of them are sealed, some of them you can grease them. This one is not sealed. It means that you can apply some grease on it. You see this little hole over here? You should get a kit that contains this little valve right here. You just need an adjustable wrench. Tighten this one. That goes on top of that hole. You thread it, it's threaded, so you need to tighten it with any wrench. I'm using the adjustable one. You don't need to put a lot of pressure on this because these are the metal can be very delicate, and if you apply too much pressure you may end up breaking it. So you just need to barely tighten this one. Once it's tight, all you need to do, as you can see over here, has a little bowl in there that allows the grease to be kept inside and not to spill out. So I need my greaser, or my grease gun. Got right over here. And as I said again, this is just a multi-purpose grease. You don't need to get any special grease. Just attach this on this adapter and you just push some grease on. This is gonna be the rubber part. As I keep pushing, it will be swelling. And as you can see over here, the grease is starting to come off, so we're good to go. Just need to disconnect this greaser. Make sure that we clean everything in here, that we don't have any kind of spillages of grease. As this one coming off, I need to clean it up real quick, and I need to clean my hands as well. We don't want to contaminate everything with grease, so once I clean this up, we need to put our nut back in there. we don't really have to count how many times we spin this one because we're not really concerned about it. And we're concerned about this one because this is going to tell me if my car is aligned or not. I mean, as I said, I'm going to take it into alignment, but I need to leave it. It's going to be a trip of maybe 3 miles from here to the shop, so I just want to protect my tires. I don't want them to be misaligned while driving those 3 miles, so I'm going to count 15 times. So this is going to be 1. Okay, so now I need to tighten this nut against the outer tie rod. The manufacturer says 25 pounds per foot. I'm not gonna do that because, as I said, I'm gonna take this car into alignment. They're gonna be taking care of those. They should be taking care of that. They're gonna play it with this, the outer tie rod and this nut. So there's no sense for me to do it right now. So I'm gonna do it as close as I can. I need to slide this one in here, and then I'm gonna tighten this one. It's not gonna be 25, but it's gonna be close to it. It's just like kind of know how to tighten this one. Okay, and that's it. Okay, so now I need to tighten this nut against the outer tie rod. The manufacturer says 25 pounds per foot. I'm not gonna do that because, as I said, I'm gonna take this car into alignment. They're gonna be taking care of those. They should be taking care of that. They're gonna play it with this, the outer tie rod and this nut. So there's no sense for me to do it right now. So I'm gonna do it as close as I can. I need to slide this one in here, and then I'm gonna tighten this one. It's not gonna be 25, but it's gonna be close to it. It's just like kind of know how to tighten this one. Okay, and that's it. So we got it in place. Now we need to place the bolts back in place. Where we got this one in place, we need to put these 2 ones and the rear one. So let's start with the rear one, and this is the cotter pin, the new one. I'm gonna keep it handy around here. I don't want to lose that one because that's gonna be at the end when we tighten the knot on here. We're gonna place it at the end of it. So okay, so let me crawl underneath my car, and as I was explaining to you in the video, this is the bolt. We need to replace this one with brand new one. You cannot tell the difference on a brand new one and an old one, like regarding the threads, but after you have been using them and you tighten these ones, the threads, they move a little bit and they bend. So that's the reason why the manufacturer recommends to replace them with a new one. You're not going to have an accident most likely if you run the car like short distances or even long distances, but this is recommended by the manufacturer, so I was always replace this one. To play a little bit with the lower control arm and wiggle it a little bit in order to put the bolt, the rear bolt that attaches the lower control arm to the subframe of the part of the chassis. So after I wheel it, I was able to slide it in. I didn't tighten it yet, 248 pounds per feet, because I need to put these bolts over here. So I just put them in there. I need to tighten them a little bit just to leave them in place. I'm not giving them any torque yet, both these bolts. Okay, so after I tighten them, again, I haven't done any torque yet, I'm just gonna give torque to the one in the back and the rear. As we said, the manufacturer recommends 148 pounds per foot, so I'm gonna tighten that right now. Okay, so now to get this already like mounted in here, we need to give the torque to these little guys over here, these little bolts. Since I don't know anything of memory, I need to check on my service manual. As you can see, it's very detailed with pictures and everything. Need to check on chapter 10 right here, suspension and steering systems, and it gives me the torque specifications right here. It tells me everything about the suspension and steering system torque specifications. It says here control arm to subframe, the front bolts are gonna be 49 pounds, so need to switch my socket wrench, use my extension, and do 45 in here. Everything. Now let's take care of the bolt that goes, the pinch bolt that holds the wheel, holds the bracket to this part right here. The bolt joint. So that one, according to the service manual, it says like there are 4 steps to actually tighten that one. First step is to do 37 pounds per foot. The second step is to loosen the nut 3/4 of a turn, and then the third step will be to tighten them back to 37, and the last step will be to tighten an additional 30 degrees. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm gonna set my torque to 37 pounds. So as you remember, we need to hold the bolt with one of them, and we want to tighten the nut with my torque meter. So I'm gonna do 37 first. It's almost there, I guess. Hold on. There he is, 37. Okay, now it says that I need to loosen it 3/4 of a turn. So this is gonna be this is almost like half of a turn. Didn't grab it right. Okay, this is like 3/4 of a turn right here. Now it says that I need to tighten the back to 37 pounds per foot. So I'm tightening. Okay, now it says that I need to do 30 degrees. I'm supposed to have a gauge that tells me the angles, but since I don't have that, I'm gonna cheat on this one. For me to do that, I just need to see like how like I need to figure, I have to picture by myself how many angles I'm moving with this. So this is not about torque anymore. I'm gonna give it to the max so I don't break my torque meter. Well, not really to the max, but close to it. And I'm gonna do a 30-degree angle. I'm not really concerned about being really precise about angles, and the reason why is because this is not an engine part. If we're talking about engine parts that I need to give it some torque, then yeah, I will be concerned about it and I will get the right tools. And since this is not gonna be a very critical part, I'm just gonna do it. So this is gonna be, if we have like, let's imagine that there is something in here, that's gonna be a 90-degree angle if I move my ratchet all the way here. So a 45-degree angle will be to here, which is kind of in the middle of the 90-degree, and then a 30° will be something around here. So that's what I'm gonna do. And that's it. That's my 30° angle. It's not really precise, but as I said, this is not a critical component, so this is not gonna make a huge difference. So I just tighten. Okay, since I already tightened that with the angle and all the instructions that the manufacturer says, we're gonna proceed attaching the links, the sway bar links, and the sway bar, the stabilizer bar links to the stabilizer bar and to the strut. So I got it brand new over here. I'm gonna open this up real quick. These are pressure nuts. So you cannot probably not tell the difference, but they are not completely circle or completely round. They have like a flat side on the top and bottom if you look them this way. So once you put them in, you are not supposed to take them out, so you are supposed to replace them. So anyway, as you can see, these ones, they have the little things, little valves that we were seeing on the outer control, the outer tie rod. These are like already there, but they're loose, so I need to tighten them carefully with my adjustable wrench. As I said, don't put a lot of pressure on them because you may end up breaking them, and I doubt that they sell them individually. So I got that one. Getting the other one real quick. Okay, and these are, you can see there's a ball joint in here, and the ball joint at the end has this stud, but also has this nut in here. This is like attached to the stud. So the reason of this is because when you're putting this the nut over here, if you are once it gets some pressure, it's gonna make this whole stud to spin. We don't want that to happen, so we want to grab this with either an adjustable wrench, or I had here 19mm wrench, so it doesn't spin while you are tightening this one. So let's go ahead and apply some grease. You can see this is gonna be my there's like a small rubber bud in here that is kind of flattish, so this is gonna tell me, oops, it got some debris on it and we don't want that in there. So this is gonna tell me if I need to apply some more grease. I need to make sure that this is not flattish. This actually has it's a little bulky. So I attach my greaser in there and I keep pumping. Just like 3 minutes, like to pump some grease inside of this ends of that link. So probably you won't see in the camera. I don't know if you'll be able to see that. This is actually a little bulkier than it was because it has grease. This one didn't expand, however it blew some of the grease through the gasket or through the rubber boot, so it's good to go. So as always, we recommend to remove any kind of grease coming out of those fittings, because we don't want any grime or any dirt to build up in those. Once we put them, it's clean and we're ready to install this part. So remember, we had to remove it on the other end just because we were not able to move this the way it's supposed to. Now we can play a little bit with that. So this goes to the front. This doesn't have any side, like you can put it like this way or this way, it doesn't make any difference. However, it has a little reading in here, so I'll just put it the way it's supposed to, like readable from this side. So it's gonna be like this and this right here. So what I'm gonna do right now is to tighten this one first, and the reason why is because my sway bar is a little up, so it means that I can use my torque meter in here, back here. So I want to check on the specifications, and it says that the links, these nuts, they have to be 63 pounds per foot. So I'm gonna use my 18mm socket wrench that I was using before. Where did it go? Right here. Yep. And I'm gonna adjust this to 63. Okay, it's adjusted to 63. This is gonna be kind of tricky because it's from behind. So what I need to do right now, instead of using my torque meter, I'm gonna use my little ratchet to tighten that, and not to give it the final tightness, but I'm just gonna place them in position, and after that's done, I'll give it a torque. Okay, so now it's the time to actually give it a torque to my stabilizer bar link. So as I was telling you, you use a 19mm socket wrench with this kit, and there's the 18mm socket. I mean, not the wrench, but this wrench right here, the socket. This is not a socket wrench. This is just a wrench, 19mm, and socket wrench is 18mm. So it's at 63 pounds per foot. So you keep giving it pressure. There it is. So it says 63. Now let's check on the other bolt. To the strut, it's gonna be 48 pounds. So again, let's go ahead and adjust this torque meter. There it is. So now we're almost coming to a final here. I need to attach this, and you see, you can turn it in a way that is suitable for you to actually slide this pin in. There it is. And you don't want to hammer this part. I mean, you actually don't need to hammer anything right now. So we will need our new nut that came with it and the cotter pin. We place it over here. Here it is. So I'm gonna get my cotter pin ready. According to the specifications of manufacturer, it's recommended to tighten this 18 pounds. And then we need, this is actually 2 steps. Step number 1 is to give it 18 pounds, and the second step is to tighten an additional 90 degrees. So we'll do that. Again, cheating a little bit because we don't have any gauge that tells me the angles. My 10mm socket wrench. So I'm going to tighten this one. So 19 to 18 pounds per foot. There it is. And now I'm gonna give it 90 degrees, tighten additional 90 degrees. So I was telling you, if I do from here to here, it's gonna be 180 degrees. So for me to do 90, it's gonna be from there to here. So I'm gonna do that right now. Okay, we got it 90 degrees right there. So now I need to slide the cotter pin. Place the cotter pin in here. You see, it's really straight. It's pretty easy to slide. This is gonna be right here. I don't see it. Oh, right there. So this is gonna be the nut that I was showing you. Let me add some flash to it so you can see it. So there is a little hole, and the cotter pin slides in that hole right there. You see? Now we have to bend the legs a little bit. We do this, as this is gonna stop that nut from spinning Just gonna keep it in a safe position, like that. See now? So this allows to hold not really tight, but at the same time, if this wheel, I mean the spindle, I mean this nut try to spin, it's not, this cutter pin is gonna stop it from doing it. That's my ball joint. That's the pinch bolt, and that's my new lower control arm right there. That's the bolt that requires 148 pounds. So we're almost done over here. The last part. Okay, the rotor had 2 washers. I need to tighten them by hand. There's no torque on this one. These are just 2 washers that hold it in place. Okay, we just place the washers in place. Put the washers in the place that they're supposed to go. Now we need to mount the caliper. Okay. Sometimes, I mean, this is the calipers right here, and you have the brake pads over here. Because we remove them, it's kind of hard to, sometimes it's kind of hard to put them back in. So what we'll need to do, because there's the gap in between the brake pads is where the rotor goes. So I need to open them carefully. I need to pry them open. In order for me to do that, I can just use any kind of metal bar, making sure there's no foreign objects on it, because that's gonna break or create some sort of damage to the brake pads. Leave them a little open, and then need to slide them in. There it goes. Okay, now that I got it in place, I need to put my caliper bolts. And I'll check on the torque specs in a second. 85 pounds. And we don't need to replace those according to the manufacturer. So some other car manufacturers, they recommend replacing those bolts. In this one, it's not recommended. So just go ahead and tighten them with my torque meter. Here it goes. Okay, we got the caliper mounted. We got the washers in place. Sometimes, because when you're putting the caliper, this rotor will shake a little bit and it will make these ones loose. So you just tighten them manually. These are just for holding the rotor in place. Now, final step before putting the wheel will be to install the new spindle nut. That is recommended by the manufacturer to change that. We didn't really need to take it off, but I did another repair before, and I didn't actually replace it with a new one, so it's recommended. But don't forget about the washer. Just put this one up, and there it goes. This is a 30mm socket wrench. What we need, we will use the torque meter, not right now to give it some torque, but just to put it in place. And you'll notice that we'll have a small issue. It's spinning. The reason why it's spinning, even though that this is a stick shift car and they have it on first gear, is because both of the wheels are off the ground. So this is spinning towards my right. The other one, because of the transaxle, the way it works is like it's gonna invert the movement on the other wheel. So I need to make sure that I put something. I can choke it with, I don't know, I can just place a piece of wood or something to stop the wheel from turning. So that's what I'm gonna do on the other side. And this is called the spindle nut or Driveaxle hub nut, and that's 81 pounds. So I'm gonna adjust it to 81 right there. Okay, so with this, we just finished the repair. We just replaced the lower control arm, we replaced the stabilizer bar links, and also replaced the inner and outer tie rod ends. What I was told at the mechanic when I took the car to a place here in southern Oklahoma is that it was going to cost me $625 just to replace one of the lower control arms. So times 2, and the other parts that weren't included, we're talking probably around $1,500 or even more to do that. I was told that this car wouldn't make it to California driving it from Oklahoma. The mechanic was trying to be very pushy and sell me or sell me the idea that I needed to replace those parts. And hey, I drove it back and forth to California twice in a month and a half, and were more than 1,600 miles in one trip times 2, and it's working just fine. I mean, it didn't give me any trouble whatsoever. So I would like to share this video because I feel like some mechanics, they try to scam people, especially people who are not aware about mechanics, and this is something that you can do by yourself. It's, as I was telling you before at the beginning of the video, it's really recommended that you get service manual. It tells you exactly what to do. You can try to find videos on YouTube, you can try to read some forums or books online that explains about mechanics, and it's just a matter of having some time and patience to play with it, and you'll be good to go. Okay, thank you so much for watching. If you have any comments, as I said, I'm not a mechanic. I have been just learning by myself. If you have gone to school and you want to share some ideas or better ways to do things, just feel free to leave any comments below. Thanks for watching the video. Please share.